This continues section 2.3, and we're continuing on adding numbers on a number line. So the next problem here, we have a -3 plus a -4. So again, we're going to start out with at 0, and we're going to travel 3 units to the left here. And so that's going to put us at this position here. Now from there, we're going to continue on 4 more units. 1, 2, 3, 4 units more to the left this way. And that is going to make us end up at this number right here, which is a -7 on the number line, which tells us that -3 plus -4 is -7. Now in this particular instance, what we see is that we move the same direction. And when we move one direction and then a little bit more on a number line, that shows an idea of addition. And again, that's why we're using the number line to show adding of real numbers, because it helps us get the idea of what's going on so we can develop rules. Now our next problem here, we have a -10 plus 4. So we're going to start out here with this at 0, and I'm going to move 10 places. I'm going to move 10 to the left. And so there we go with the -10. And then from there, I'm going to move 4 to the right. So from here, I move 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice again how the sign shows us the direction that we move. Negative, we move left. Positive, we move right. And that puts us at that position right there, which is a -6. So this tells us that -10 plus 4 is a -6. And there's our final answer. Now our last one down here shows us some real numbers, some fractions. So I'm going to start here at 0, just like before, and I've marked off my number line by fifths. 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, 5/5, 5/5 being 1. So I'm going to move 1/5, 2/5, 3/5 to the right. So we have 3/5 here that I've moved. Now from there, I'm going to move 1/5, 2/5, 3/5 more. And that is going to give us our answer there. So we have that 3/5 plus 3/5 is equal to 1 and 1/5. And you see how nice it is to read it from the number line there in terms of a mixed number. And then you could also read it as an improper fraction as well, but you know my preference on improper fractions. Now I have a little bit of extra time here, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you something with our first example that will show you that it doesn't matter the order that these come in. So remember that there's something called the commutative property for real numbers, which means that in addition, the commutative property of real numbers, the addition commutative property, which shows us that real numbers, it doesn't matter which way we order we add them in, they're still the same. So even if I would have started with this -3 here and added 7 to it, I'm still going to get the same answer. So I'm going to do that in red. So if I have a -3, I would have started here and I would have gone 1, 2, and 3 in the negative direction. And then from there, I would have said, okay, now I'm going to move 7 in the positive direction. So 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And I've moved 7 in the positive direction, and you notice that I still end up at the exact same answer, the +4 that I ended up with before. And that's just showing you that addition really is commutative. Now one last thing that I would like to point out is that one of the ways to interpret this is saying, okay, if these numbers are fighting with one another, I subtract the numbers, and whichever one I'm going further into their territory, the positives or the negatives, that's the sign that they keep, right? A 7 plus a -3, we went further in the positive direction than in the negative, so our number was positive. These two numbers, they weren't fighting with each other, they were just keeping going in the negative direction, and that's where we got a negative number. And then this one, we were fighting in opposite directions, right? But we went further into the negative direction than we did back into the positive direction, and that's why we ended up with a negative. And then down here, we weren't fighting again, we were keeping going, we're cooperative, we're getting more and more, and that's where we got the positive number because we're in the positive direction.